Welcome to the Tech Therapy Podcast. I'm your host, BJ Hamaker, the CMO of Nucleus. Tech Therapy is here to save you from busy work so you can focus on what's fulfilling and profitable. Stick around to the end of the show. We'll reveal how you can be our next guest in around 20 minutes. Let's go. We're talking with Caleb from NativShark. Caleb, can you tell us what NativShark does?
Yeah, for sure. So NativShark is a language learning platform specifically for Japanese. So what we do at NativShark is we build software and we create original content for learning language, but specifically Japanese at the moment. So along with that, we've created our own curriculum and pedagogy, I guess you could say. And then to complement that, we've built a lot of software. Right now, it's just a web app, but someday it'll also be a mobile app.
Nice, for sure. It's beautiful. Frankly, I just want to give my honest review of it. It's I would highly recommend it. It's NativShark. There's no E in native, but it's NATIV shark.com.
Yeah, that's right. I appreciate the compliments on its looks. That said, though, if you do type it with an E, we also have that domain. It'll just redirect, so you're good.
Nice.
It's a good move.
Fantastic. That's a really good move. Yeah, it's pretty easy to use. I think really stylistically, it really comes down to that, like how easy is something for somebody to use. It makes me really curious about what does it look like under the hood. I see the settings page is the kind of is there an admin experience that's similar, and then like what kind of technology are you using to build the site and then just to run the site?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so as far as like content creation goes, there is what we call the CMP, or the content management platform. And that we did build ourselves as well. And it's where there's in order to get the lessons to look the way that they do, where they have, there's like a summary somewhere in there. There's like different types of elements, we call them like a deep look or a writer's note. And then there's also like the furigana, and there's highlighting, and then there's audio embedded, all that kind of stuff. So each of those is like an element. So when you're writing in the, I guess it's a WYSIWYG editor, but it looks better than like a normal WYSIWYG editor, I guess.
Nice.
I don't know. You type it in there and you can do like / commands, and it will bring up like the different elements that you can select from the elements that you want to bring in. Then it brings you into the element, and then you can type, and then you can like exit the element and all that kind of stuff. And so you can like bring in like furigana or the kanji elements or whatever, just like while you're typing.
And you built
I
that editor yourself?
Yes, that's custom.
Killer, man. That's impressive.
Yeah, I want to highlight that for anybody who listens to this, those would be best practices, where the tools that you're going to use to modify and build and support your customers are easy to use too. That's fantastic that you put some like really, really important thought into that.
I will say that since they don't clients don't use them, they're only internal tools at the moment. They definitely leave a lot to be desired. So we made it as like workable, but then we started focusing on other things. So they're like at the workable stage. So they have a lot more work to be done on them, but it works, right? We've been using it for like 2 years. So, before you go and say like total best practice, you haven't really seen it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, we're not. Once it gets to the point where you want to license it out to other people, let us know and we'll tell everybody.
Yeah.
But for now, we'll just.
Yeah, it needs to change before we make that stuff more open to the students, because we eventually want it so that like students can like make their own notes and stuff, right? Because you can't do that right now. It's kind of a bummer. But when you can make your own notes, we're like, why not just give them the same like super powerful editor that we have, where you can like type and then you have access to the entire database of all the sentences. So you can just like embed sentences you want to practice in your notes or whatever, take notes, highlight all the stuff that we do, but the students can do it too. Can't do that yet, but that's what we want to do with those tools. That's why we built them so good. So
it did. I never felt like I wanted to write a note on it because it's so clean and elegant that I was just like, this is nice. I would hate to mess it up, frankly.
Well, use it for like 1 year or 2 years into your studies, and then maybe you want to be like taking notes. Like once it becomes your main study tool,
What you said is interesting as a prerequisite for some other types of user experiences. BJ, you have specific experience with language, with Japanese language learning. because you have this trading card game.
Yeah, Japanese the game. The point of that really was to teach sentence building skills. I wanted people to, because that was what I felt was missing for me. I was like, okay, that's a sentence, but why is it a sentence? So like I took it in, college for a year, and that was cool. And then I was tutoring after I'd lived in Japan for a couple of years, and one of my students, he couldn't remember things very well. So I thought maybe he's a kinesthetic learner. So I put all the words on cards. I'm like, let's move these cards around. And I was like, oh, this is a game now. So that was kind of an accident, really, but it worked out.
What made me think of that is if you add features to help students, construct sentences, then using especially the language, then it might make it easy for them to share it with other people, or just kind of an interaction or a conversation.
That's entirely the point. Yep, that's what we're thinking about for sure.
So people could maybe post a sentence they built in NativShark to their social media or something like that.
Yep, that's right. That's the goal. Yeah, so just like a little share button, and then there you go.
What type of things do you have in mind for the future for NativShark?
I mean, that's a really large question.
Well, maybe, I don't even know where to start. A little bit more about it. Like how many people use NativShark today?
There's like 36,000 accounts created. As far as how many people use it on a daily basis, like near 1,000 or so is all out of that 36,000 people.
That's a reach. That's a penetration for sure.
Yeah.
Are you doing anything? So I see you have a Discord community. That must be good to get that like direct communication with users. Do you leverage that a lot for communication and just announcements and polls and things like that? Or
yeah, 100%. The Discord has been huge. That's something that I started building, like, wow, I don't know, maybe like in 2017 now. It's been a long time. Yeah. Like in general, I think communities for business in general, but like just anything, communities are really, really good and really powerful if you can build them well. And if you can build it well part is literally everything. So we started building it a long time ago, and it's just been just reinforcing it and like encouraging it, letting it be its own thing, and to get to where it is now. And yeah, we absolutely use it a lot for everything that you mentioned, for sure. It's a great like access point to our customers. Like it's way easier to build a product if you're building it for somebody, and we're literally building it for our community, and our community is something that we actually talk to all the time. So you just keep it's like compounding effects, right?
Yeah. It's
like stack things as much as you can, and that's kind of what we're doing.
Right. Like how expensive is it for you to do like focus groups? You don't need to, like you can just you can just talk to people about what they would think, and you can even pilot some things out and have them test them out.
Yep. Which we do. We have a little Shark Testers channel is what it's called. Or no, we renamed it to Shark Labs because that was cooler.
Shark Labs.
Yeah.
Like that. Man, fantastic.
When you're in the app, it's my own experience. Like, and that's great. I don't have any distractions from outside. But that is one of the failure points on, like, say, if you're just doing Duolingo or something like that, it's just you. And like, if you don't do it, then nobody cares. And there's nobody to ask or talk to about it unless your friend's doing it too. And you might bring it up incidentally. But if you're in a Discord, then every time you log into Discord, you'll see, hey, there's some new messages in here, it ropes you back in. That's super valuable. The way that, once you do roll out a mobile app, then notifications will be doing some of that too.
Absolutely.
But as it is, like, I signed up for your email list like a year and a half ago because you employed my friend Jacob, who's just one of my favorite developer. Other than Pace, I love you, Pace. I've never worked with you as a developer, Pace. I don't know, but Jacob Foster is amazing.
Yeah.
Oh no, I shouldn't say his name. They'll hire him away. But anyway, he's so good.
Jacob is nuts.
And he showed me, like what he's doing, just because I wanted to follow up with him because we're homies, and he showed me that, what NativShark's doing, and I was like, I got to stay in touch with this because you guys are really going somewhere. And I guess that was actually 2 years ago, and you really have powered forward in the last 2 years, which is totally awesome.
Yeah. 2 years ago, let's see, we're in 2022. So 2020, we would have been building NativShark. It wouldn't have been out yet.
Yeah, I got your notification that
Yep.
you had to delay the launch for a week or 3 or something like that.
Yeah. I think it
That was
actually
the
ended up
first
being like
email I
2
got.
months, but yeah. It's a bit ambitious to try to launch something like this in 6 months. Um, it took us 8 months, which is still like in hindsight incredibly fast.
It's very impressive for what it is. Like you can
Yeah.
do, there are little projects that take 3-6 months, but this is
Yeah.
basically an 18-month project that I'm very impressed to hear you launched in 8 months.
So when did you start? You said 2017 was the Discord. So
Okay, so yeah. So before NativShark, there was a different company that I ran called NihongoShark. And the website for that is actually still up, but I have yet to update that website since 2017, which I'm about to do. So, anyway, yeah. So that was with Nico, who's my co-founder of NativShark,
Nice.
and we started working together in I think 2015 originally. Then 2017, we're like, hey, let's start a company. We did that. We sold just like a Teachable course. If you're familiar with Teachable, it's like a way to a course hosting platform. Everything was essentially just like an online textbook, but that was boring, and I wanted to make software. So I was like, yo, let's make software, Nico. And he's like, okay, I don't like using all these. We were hacking together so many tools to try to make what we were doing working, and it just wasn't working. And I was like, this can be better if we just build all of our own software. And usually build all of your own software is not the answer. I wouldn't recommend it, but sometimes it is the answer, and for us it was. So that's what we started. So NativShark started in 2019. That's when we founded the company. Then we brought Jacob on, as well as a couple other employees towards the end of 2019. And then I think we started actually coding in December of 2019. That's when code is being committed to NativShark. That's the same code base as the one that exists now. We kind of, Jacob and I worked on some designs and stuff, UI wise, together in maybe August of 2019, but he wasn't totally full time yet, and we hadn't fully been all right, we're gonna do this until the end of 2019. So yeah, about 2 years is how long NativShark's been around, I guess. Just a little over 2 years since starting to now.
Fantastic. Well, so when I did my own, I was checking out the other day just because I checked in with Jacob again. I don't remember why. He had some announcement on Facebook or something. But I was like, oh yeah, NativShark is it's a technology platform. This would be a really interesting exploration for tech therapy. And to hear that you guys basically built all your own software, you make a great point. It's not usually the right solution to make all your own software, but sometimes it actually is.
Except
Sometimes
for when it is.
Yeah, right. And there are so many great projects that we use every day, that everyone uses every day, that are somebody making all their own software from A to Z. And when it's that well thought out, it's so cohesive.
Yeah.
And when you don't have to make different technologies talk to each other and kludge things together and write API calls and use Zapier or something like that. Everything can just, it's harmonious love of technology. feels delicious.
I can imagine that would be, well, for one point, you use Discord, and that is its separate software that has all of these amazing features that you are reliant on.
Yeah.
And you do have some talking between those.
Absolutely. Yep.
So there are integrations too. And I'm assuming you use some other things for internal chats. Maybe you use Discord for that same thing, and just business admin systems, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and we do use Discord for internal team chat because Slack is boring.
It's boring.
So we don't use Slack. We use Discord. We have a separate Discord from the community one that we do that in, though, at this point.
Let's Slack get offended. We use Slack as our internal system.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of people do.
Slack, don't boot us off or anything, okay?
I would just say Slack has, in some features, I would say benefits over Discord, especially more approachable from a general business audience. But Discord, especially with a B2C type application, fantastic. The features are just unmatched. For sure.
Yeah, reaching out, being live with other people, definitely being able to reach out to you, Caleb. I mean, I contacted you on Discord. That worked out great. Being a place where people can reach you, it's and the fact that it's not open to the entire world, you don't get drive-bys in Discord.
Yeah,
where
there's a good
people just
balance.
pop in to
Mhm.
say something rude or something.
For sure. Yeah.
I guess it could happen, but that's not what happens.
So the I think one thing I was thinking of is what challenges you faced in building custom software. Like have you had significant bottlenecks in that, in having one stellar developer or a few other good reliable ones? What lessons have you learned as far as what really works and what was challenging with getting this custom software built?
Um, well, when we started in 2020, initially we did have we had Jacob at the start, and we hired another developer, and then we hired 3 more developers. So at one point we had 5 developers. And I will say that doing all of that at once was challenging. So something that's worked is scaling the team down actually, and really trying to figure out how much overhead do you actually need to accomplish your task, and maybe don't just like inflate your team size because you feel like it's a thing to do, um, which we kind of did initially. And it worked out, but in hindsight, I could have kept the team a lot smaller initially, and then it may have been like the flow might have been a bit more sustainable. Um, so that's one thing for sure, is like really take an analysis on your team, and what are they doing, and what's the point kind of, what's the focus, and figure out where the holdups are. And when you find those holdups, like take care of them, because that's another thing that we learned along the way. It's like you would identify certain things, but there'd be like a lot of things that would be holding you up, and you'd be like, oh no, are we stuck? And it's like, no, just go through and focus on one of them at a time. So like
Yeah.
simplify the range of focus down to the smallest task that you can, and then go from there.
Yeah, that's very important advice. We went through pretty much the same process, over the past year, and it's
I
been
find many people
challenging.
do.
Yeah, going up to, at one point we had almost 20 people, working on things, and then realizing we can't keep up the speed of assigning work to this amount of people,
Yeah.
and it imploded, and that hurt really bad. And
Yep. It always
thankfully
does.
we survived, but not without getting even lower, from time to time. So
Yeah.
it's challenging. I can imagine from that perspective. Did you have some challenges with just budgets and investors, and like trying to get it to where it is today?
Yeah. Yeah. Budget in 2020 was an interesting thing.
Yeah, I was going to ask
um
about that when you said the
yeah.
development started at the end of 2019. Yeah,
Yeah, we didn't yeah, COVID happened too. That was crazy. That really threw things.
right.
Everything was just kind of wild, because we had people that were like going to be moving to a location, and then that didn't happen. So then we're like, well, I guess totally remote is fine. We were already thinking remote was fine because like we had been remote for a long time, but then we were also thinking, well, we're starting a new thing. It would be fun if people were in the same location. So we were actually working on getting people visas to Japan at the time. Um, and then that kind of got upended. So yeah, for some of the team members, like part of what we hired them to do required them to be in, not the developers, but some other people on the team required them to actually be in person. So that ended up being like a weird thing to figure out over the next couple months. It was like, so now what do we do with this position? We held on to it for about as long as we could, but ultimately it was like, and unfortunately, the world completely changed, and this is no longer something we're able to do. We actually didn't have any investors to start the project, or to start in 2020 at all. We didn't bring on external money until 2021 in February. So we were fully self-funded for all 2019, all 2020, and everything like that.
Which can be a challenge too, like deciding how much time you're going to give to the project as opposed to like you're taking care of your regular bills and things like that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But no, it was like, yeah, it was also my primary source of income. Like the previous business was the one that we ran, because I had been full-time. Like I've been a full-time internet person since like, yeah, I don't know, 2016. Actually, right out of college. That's what I did. Just straight into being an internet person
That's
for
awesome.
like making money and stuff. Yeah. So
Yeah, that's pretty solid.
So it
Well,
looks to
yeah,
me like, I mean, everything's kind of like snowballing at this point. You had 2020 problems, you had changing size problems, but I mean, from what I see, it looks like a very stable platform. And
yeah,
when I
yeah,
log into it, I get the impression that there's a lot now, and it's going to get even better. Um,
absolutely.
and I don't know. I mean, I think one thing that I would love to know, Pay's already asked like what you're doing next and everything like that, but that, in my opinion, that's going to stem from the thing that you do best, like the thing that NativShark does better than its competitors. And I have my opinions about that, and Pace had his own different opinions about that. But from you, Caleb, I'd love to hear like what you feel like NativShark really gets right, as opposed to other people's other options.
Yeah, well, I will quickly summarize the journey, because we were just talking about that, and like we were talking about 2020, and it's a good thing we're talking in 2022, because 2020 was chaotic. 2021 though was the year of like stabilization. That's where we like pared things down, focused on stabilizing the platform so that when you log in, you actually have a really smooth experience. That's why it is the way that it is now. And then 2022 gets more towards the question you just asked, where it's like, okay, now that the thing works, it does what it set out to do, it's stable, it can kind of run itself more or less. Now it's like, all right, we pare down on what we're good at, and then we grow from there. So this year we're paring down on what we're good at, and then next year will be the growing from there. And so what we're paring down on is like, with NativShark, we have an extremely acute focus on like natural, useful, and actually used language. Um, and our goal to like bundle that whole thing is, we want the learning process to be as simple as possible, to help students reach like a how do I put it, a functional level of language as efficiently as possible. So there's a focus on like simplicity, efficiency, and functionality in what you're learning. That's kind of the three things that guide both the technology but also the content. And so this year we're really like focusing on that for both the features that are being built out, as well as the content that's being created.
That's great. I'm glad to hear it. I mean, that was one of the things that struck me, is that the Japanese in the curriculum is just native everyday Japanese. It's what you're going to actually hear. It does not sound like it came from a textbook. And I was talking about, my Japanese thing that I did earlier. That was all based on like correct Japanese grammar, because I wanted to teach correct Japanese grammar. But correct Japanese grammar is not correct Japanese. Like that's just
right.
Yeah,
not what you're gonna say, and it's not what anybody's gonna say to you, right? Like that's just how it is. Like I just used the word gonna. If I were teaching someone English, and I would be doing them a disservice if I didn't teach them how to use the word gonna. Like
Right.
that's a
exactly.
pretty
But
important. If you're
so
on the
many people
West
leave
Coast,
out that word. Like, why? Learning platforms leave out the word. I don't know. We decided let's not leave out those words, so we put
yeah,
in the words like gonna.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
I see
fantastic.
this going well. The future, I guess, big decision you're gonna make is like how to scale with personnel. Then, if you're gonna have to be reaching out, like I saw you've got tons of content on your Instagram, but not for the last few months. Like I could go delve through that for ages, right? Like there's so much good stuff on there. But sounds like a personnel decision you had to make. Like, are we gonna have a social media person? But if you're gonna continue growing this project the way that it deserves to grow, you're gonna have to bring more people on, and can be a tough decision.
Yeah, for sure. There will come a time when we do have to focus on scaling up personnel again. Though this time around, like I'm looking forward to it, because I have all the lessons of the last time that we did that. And so this time we have like the experience, and we have systems for it and things like that. And now the way that we look at like hiring and personnel decisions is um, basically only do it when you know that you need it, instead of preemptively doing something. And that's
Right.
kind of I would say that's kind of a budget constraint more than anything else. Like when you're mostly bootstrapped, that's kind of how you have to think. Because if you're not like VC funded, where you have like a pile of cash and you have to spend that cash in the next 18 months, it's like, well, you have to inflate, because if you don't spend that cash, you're not getting more cash.
Right.
But that's a whole other can of worms. Like we don't need to get down that path. But
It is,
so
yeah.
so that's
How
I think
easy
about
problems
it.
to avoid, especially for most businesses. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's mostly like a financial like decision more or less on how quickly we scale and in what order we scale things, whether that's a personnel scale or that's like a outreach spend scale,
Right. Um,
bit of chicken and egg.
as far as the technology goes, what are a few of the kind of the features that you're hoping to roll out, or just general directives that you're trying to that you want to focus on in the next 6 months, next year?
Yeah. So next 6 months, let's see. Content discovery is a huge one. Right now, the content that you get it's the core platform, and you just go through it, and that's how it works. And then if you want to like look at the content that you studied, you can go to like the flashcard browser, and you can see content that you studied that way. But there's not necessarily an easily intuitive way to like go and review past lessons without going to the dashboard and then scrolling to the lesson and then reading the lesson. Like it works, but it's not like as enjoyable as you'd want it to be. It's not just like, oh, here's an easily searchable and filterable like database of all of the lessons, or here's like an intuitive suggestion algorithm that says, hey, you might want to like look at this lesson because you recently answered this way to this answer, so we know you might be struggling with this concept. How about you review this kind of a thing? Right, but that's all considered secondary to us, because the real point of NativShark is like the simplicity of all you have to do is show up and click study now and just do that every single day and you'll be fine. But what about what happens when you're done with study now and you have time left over? And that's what we're doing. We're answering that question. And content discovery is one of those. Just like make it easier to source our content because it's great.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, no, I'm really excited about it. Even looking at this on the mobile preview in browser, this is portable.
Yeah. I use it only
really
on my phone, like pretty much exclusively actually. Like you can save it as like a, like
a
a, what do you call it,
widget,
a bookmark, yeah, or whatever you
on
call
the
it. Yeah.
page, yeah.
So when you click it, it opens up in its own app, even though it's not an app. That's pretty much exclusively how I use the platform actually.
Nice. Yeah, I would say getting it into the app stores would be a fantastic step, and definitely get a lot more exposure and feedback, but it's good enough to be right in there, because you have a very modern material design. I like it.
For sure, appreciate that.
So yeah, BJ, I don't know if you have any other things to cover, but this is a fantastic first guest episode for Tech Therapy Podcast.
Yeah. It's got some flavor, it's got some Japanese flavor.
Yeah.
Feels nice. And I
sure.
like that. It's subtle, it's kind of salty. It's kind of, anyway, just kidding. But yeah, Caleb, thanks for joining us. It has been really interesting to learn, kind of the backstory of something that Pace and I both had some fun experiencing this week. And hopefully the bright, beautiful future of NativShark, which is like just a solid take on, curriculum as app. I just love it. So, I mean, we'll catch up with you sometime, because I mean, we're both curious, and we'll find out what happens in the future. Maybe we'll do an update episode or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, would love to do it.
Cool. All right. Thanks,
Right.
Caleb. We'll see you.
All right, take care.
BJ Hamaker here. Thanks for listening to the Tech Therapy Podcast. If you're a successful business owner and would like to be a guest on the show, please visit techtherapypodcast.com. If you got something out of this interview, would you share this link on social media, or a screenshot, or just your comments, and include the hashtag TechTherapyPodcast? If you know someone who would be a great guest, tag them on social media and let them know about the show. And remember to use our hashtag TechTherapyPodcast. I love seeing your posts and your guest suggestions. We are regularly putting out new content, so please make sure you don't miss anything by hitting subscribe. Your thumbs up, your ratings, your reviews, your comments, they go a long way to promote the show in the algorithms. So please go ahead and, give us a nice comment or review the podcast. If you want to know more, please go to techtherapypodcast.com or follow the show on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. We're on Instagram, we're at Tech Therapy Podcast. Thank you for listening. We appreciate your time, and we'll see you next time.